way we will get that done.
No new wars. I'm done with the military-industrial complex.
None of us want new wars. None of us want new wars.
Where does the money come from? Read Hoffman on LinkedIn. We know where your money's coming from, JD. We know. And we're sick of the wars. We want America first. When the Russians get back, it's over. Done.
This is my video update on this Wednesday, midday, January the 31st. Let's talk about some news, and let's start things off with an update on what is going on in Kiev, the soap opera that is Elensky and Zaluzhny. Like sands through the hourglass of time, so are the days of Kiev. And it really is a soap opera. What is going on in Kiev really has turned into a soap opera. So the rumors the other day were that Elensky had tried to fire Zaluzhny, and that didn't work out. Then Elensky had asked Zaluzhny to resign, and Zaluzhny was like, nope, not going to happen. And then we got reports that Elensky had told Zaluzhny, look, bro, I need you to step aside as commander of the armed forces, and I will put you into a different position in the government. I will make you national security coordinator, or national security advisor, something like that. If you just step aside from your role as commander of the Ukraine military. And Zaluzhny was like, nope, not going to happen. And that was that. And then the Elensky government, the administration, because all of these reports, they started to hit the interwebs, and they were all over Twitter and Telegram as to what was going on. So the Elensky regime, they put out a statement saying all the reports about the firing of Zaluzhny, not true, all is good. This is all fake news. And then you had the collective West media. They started to poke around in Kiev to see what's going on, and they started to talk to their anonymous sources, the anonymous officials that they have in Kiev. And the collective West media actually confirmed the reports and the rumors that Elensky did indeed try to fire Zaluzhny, then try to get Zaluzhny to resign, and offered Zaluzhny a different position in the government if he were to step down as commander of the armed forces. And of course, the plan in all of this was to get Zaluzhny out and to get Budanov in, the android AI robot known as Budanov. And so the Financial Times, they put out an article with the title, Volodymyr Elensky prepares to replace Ukraine's top general. Removal of Valery Zaluzhny would mark the biggest shakeup of military command since Russia's full-scale invasion. And The Economist, they put out an article with the title, The feud between Ukraine's president and army chief boils over. And they confirmed all the reports from the other day that Elensky, he is trying to get rid of Zaluzhny, and Zaluzhny will not go. So what does that tell you? What does that tell us? That Zaluzhny is refusing the orders of the person who is, at the end of the day, the overall commander of Ukraine's armed forces. I mean, the president of the country is telling Zaluzhny to leave, and Zaluzhny is saying no. What does that tell us? You know, Elensky's not as powerful as he makes himself out to be. Maybe he's not the Churchill figure that everyone says he is, because Zaluzhny is refusing a direct order from his superior, isn't he? At the end of the day, that's what's going on. And I imagine that Zaluzhny understands that Elensky can't get him to step aside as the commander of the Ukraine armed forces, because Zaluzhny understands that he has a lot of power. He has the military with him. The military obviously doesn't respect Elensky. That's obvious. And they respect and listen to Zaluzhny. Zaluzhny is their leader, not the president of Ukraine. And so the reports are saying that Elensky is stepping back a bit, and he's going to give it some time. The Financial Times, the Financial Times, they reported that that Elensky's made the decision. He wants Zaluzhny gone, but he's going to step back, give it some time, in order to avoid a wider scandal. What does that tell you? To me, it signals that Elensky is afraid that if he were to get rid of Zaluzhny today, then he would be removed as president. The military would march into Kiev and pick up the clown puppet and remove him from office. That's what this tells me. So we may be seeing, I would imagine, the next move of Elensky, we may be seeing maybe a wider purge of the military, maybe try to knock out some of the lower level officials, the lower level commanders who are loyal to Zaluzhny. Maybe that's the plan. Because if Elensky doesn't commit to a wider purge of the military and the people that support Zaluzhny, how is he going to get rid of Zaluzhny? And are you going to do this all in the middle of, all of this is going to happen in the middle of a war, of a conflict? Nah, I don't see that happening. I think Elensky's in trouble. I think Elensky is in trouble, in big trouble. And I'll tell you why I think he's in trouble. Another reason why I think he's in trouble. Because the reports are that Budanov, who was going to be offered the position of commander of the Ukraine military, he turned it down. He turned it down. So the thinking, the plan from the collective West was that the war, over time, this war would shift from a conventional war to an insurgency war, because the collective West, the deep state, the permanent state, the CIA, they understand that Russia won this thing. They understand that. And they want to shift over time. They want to shift everything into a type of insurgency war. And who better to lead an insurgency war than Budanov? And so the thinking, the plan was, look, we'll get rid of Zaluzhny. We'll put Budanov in charge of the military. And over time, we'll shift everything into this insurgency terrorist type of operation. But the reports are that Budanov, after seeing everything that's going down in between Elensky and Zaluzhny, Budanov's like, nah, I don't want the job of top commander anymore. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? Let me know in the comments down below. I'm still trying to figure out what that might mean if these reports are true, that Budanov isn't interested in the commander position anymore. Well, it may mean that Budanov understands that he can't command a military that is loyal to Zaluzhny. So Budanov may be signaling, look, we have to do a purge of the military before I come in and take over. It could mean something like that. It could also mean that Budanov might be siding with Zaluzhny. Maybe that's what's going on. Maybe Budanov is looking at the playing field, and he's saying, you know what, the president is weaker than the military commander. The president doesn't actually have control of the military. Zaluzhny has control of the military. Now, who's in a government? Who's stronger? Who's the strongest? The administrative or the military? If you don't have control of the military as president or prime minister, then you're in big trouble. You're in very big trouble if you don't control the guns. So maybe Budanov is kind of looking at what's going on, and he's saying, you know, maybe I should start to isolate Elensky. Maybe I won't be siding with Zaluzhny, but why should I align with Zelensky? That could be what Budanov is saying as well. Anyway, I thought that was very, very interesting news, if these reports are true. So I imagine at the end of the day, this will be resolved by the collective West. They'll figure out a way to resolve this. How that will go down, I don't know. But I imagine the CIA, the US, the Biden White House, the State Department, the UK, Maybe the EU a little bit, but I don't think anyone's really listening to the European Union. But I imagine they're going to try and figure out what the government and what the military of Ukraine is going to look like going forward. And at the end of the day, they'll probably decide how things are going to shake out because they control the money and the weapons. And at the end of the day, the collective West they are the ones they are the ones who control the purse strings. They're the ones that supply the weapons to Ukraine, and so they'll get their way when all is said and done. What that is, I don't know. I've read analysis which says that the UK is pushing for the Budanov insurgency idea, that the CIA is pushing for Budanov insurgency. The State Department, they still like Elensky. The EU is 100% on board with Elensky. I mean, they love Elensky, right? Elensky #5. They can't get enough of hugging Elensky, so they're fully on board with the Elensky train. Sunak obviously likes Zelensky, but how strong is Sunak? So anyway, this is the soap opera that is Kiev. Let's see how all of this shakes out. For the time being, it looks like Elensky has had to back off. That's not a good sign if you're the president of Ukraine. So I would say that this is a win for Zaluzhny at the moment. This is a win for Zaluzhny, even though the Financial Times is saying that Elensky is going to get rid of Zaluzhny sooner or later. It's a done deal. So anyway, that's the full update on the soap opera that is Kiev. Anyway, let's go to the next story. The 50 billion to the Elensky to the Elensky regime. The 50 billion to the Elensky regime. My mind got stuck there for a second. The EU is going to be meeting on Thursday, tomorrow, to approve the 50 billion euros over 4 years to the Elensky regime. And they're going to commit to this long-term funding of 50 billion. But they have one country and one man that is in the way at the moment, and that country is Hungary. That man is Viktor Orban. He is vetoing, in essence, blocking the approval of this 50 billion euros to the Elensky regime. And so the Financial Times, they put out, they got a look, according to the Financial Times, they got a look at a document which is a plan by the European Union to punish Orban for his veto of the 50 billion to the Elensky regime. And the Financial Times reported in this article a couple of days ago that what the EU is going to do to Hungary is basically destroy the economy of Hungary. They're going to create a bank run, sink the currency, stop investment into the country, create massive job losses. And effectively, what they're looking to do is to create some sort of dynamic where there's a regime change of the Orban administration. They get the Orban government out, and that's what they're really leading up to. That's what they would like to have happen. But they're going to punish Hungary for its blocking of the 50 billion. Now, Orban, obviously, he read this Financial Times article, and he's responded to as to why he continues to block the 50 billion going to the Elensky regime. Actually, Orban said that, look, we can come up with a compromise. Instead of committing to 50 billion over 4 years and committing to it, let's disperse 12.5 billion every year. And every year we have to sit down and approve the 12.5 billion over 4 years. And his thinking makes sense. Because what Orban said is look, we don't know what the situation is going to be in 3 months, in 6 months with Project Ukraine, let alone in 1 year or 4 years. So why should we commit to 50 billion over 4 years? Let's do every year 12.5 billion, and every year we can sit down and see how things went and see where the money went And if the money's doing any good, before we commit to another 12.5 billion. And so that's Orban's reasoning. Of course, the EU doesn't like this because the EU, they understand that every year Orban will be able to sit down and negotiate with the EU. And Orban can say, hey, you guys owe me 20 billion, right? The EU owes Hungary 20 billion. They've frozen 20 billion in money that is owed to Hungary. That's what the EU has done to Hungary. Once again, as a way to punish Orban. But Orban can come along every year as they're about to approve the 12.5 billion to Ukraine, and he can extract some of that money that's owed to Hungary that's been frozen. And they don't want that. They don't want to give Orban any leverage over them every single year. So that's why they don't like this compromise that Orban is floating. But he gave an interview, Orban, and he explained his reasoning. And he said, first, we don't know what will happen in the next 3 or 4 months in Ukraine. Second, no one knows whether or not Americans will participate in the game, whether today or after the US presidential election in November 2024. And third, who did the counting? Who did the calculation? Why exactly 50 billion? We do not know exactly what this amount corresponds to, Orban said, adding that the bloc should not commit to a 4-year aid package of this size when the political situation in the union could be radically altered by this summer's EU elections. He's exactly right. There's going to be elections for the EU Parliament this summer. Come November, I believe it is November, you're going to have a very different team running the European Union. Ursula may stay, but Borrell is certain to be leaving as the foreign policy guy. Michel is going to be leaving as the council president. And so you're going to have a different team that is running the European Union come November. You have elections in the United States. If Trump wins, what does that mean for Project Ukraine? You have something like 40 elections taking place all over the world. So it's going to be a very different picture come December 2024. And then, of course, you have the facts on the ground, which is that Russia is winning in a big way. And there really is no chance for Ukraine to win this war. That's obvious now. So it makes sense. What Orban is saying is a good compromise deal. Every year, let's see what's going on with this money before we give it over to Project Ukraine. There may not even be a Ukraine in 6 months or a year or 2 years. We don't know. We really don't know, and that's what Orban is getting to. But of course, what this comes down to is that this is a very good deal and compromise from Orban. But the EU also recognizes that it gives Orban negotiating leverage over 4 years, and they understand that Orban is going to use the negotiation, the yearly approval of this money. He's going to use it to extract the 20 billion that the European Union owes him. And the European Union, it's obvious, the European Union doesn't want to give the money that is Hungary's. They don't want to give it over to Hungary. That's obvious now. So anyway, that's the situation there. We'll see what'll happen on Thursday. We will see how things progress on Thursday, and we'll see if Orban can hold the line. Maybe he folds and he agrees to the 50 billion because the attack plan from the EU against Hungary, if you believe that Financial Times article, and I don't see why not, the attack that the European Union is about to wage against Hungary is going to be pretty big. The European Union is looking to demolish the Hungarian economy. So we'll see what will happen there. Jungle Joseph, he came out with a statement yesterday, and he said that the EU opposes a Ukraine truce, and he called for more weapons for Kiev and further sanctions on Moscow. In an op-ed for France's L'Obs magazine on Tuesday, Borrell urged EU leaders to reject the temptations of conciliation with Russia. These ideas were wrong in 2022, and they remain wrong today, he wrote, arguing that we must not let them shape our policy towards Ukraine. Now, just 2 days ago, Borrell said that there's no light at the end of the tunnel with regards to sanctions and trying to destroy Russia. Not working. And yesterday he has this op-ed, and he says we have to impose more sanctions on Russia, even though he has recognized that the sanctions aren't working, and we have to get more weapons to Ukraine, and no truce, no ceasefire under any circumstances. Not that the Russians are looking for a ceasefire or truce either. I think it's clear now that the Russians, they are going to resolve Ukraine on the battlefield. And not only Ukraine, they're going to resolve Ukraine and the problems with NATO. It's all going to be resolved on the battlefield. I think Putin and his administration have made that decision. But Borrell is like, look, more sanctions, more weapons. 2 days ago, no light at the end of the tunnel. Sanctions aren't working. Yesterday, we need more sanctions. So Borrell, here's my thinking on Borrell. Borrell, Michel, all these guys. I think they're no different. They're no different than the spider on my bag. They're no different than the thinking of Jake Sullivan in the Biden White House, which is, let's not have a Project Ukraine collapse while I'm in office, while I'm sitting in the chair. Let's avoid a Project Ukraine collapse. Because Borrell, come November, he's gone. And then Klaus Schwab, he'll appoint Borrell to the next globalist position, whatever that will be. But Borrell's like, look, I can't have a Project Ukraine collapse on my watch. So let's just keep Ukraine afloat for another year. In much the same way that Sullivan is also saying, let's keep Ukraine afloat for another year, at least until November 2024. Let's not have an Afghanistan collapse, an Afghanistan type of collapse, while Biden is running for re-election. So it's the same thinking. Let's not have Project Ukraine collapse while I'm in office. Borrell, Michel, all of these globalists, they're going to move on, and they don't want a Ukraine debacle to happen on their watch. The next person that comes into office, they can take the blame. The next foreign minister, most likely it'll be Kaya Kallas. She's going to take the blame for a Project Ukraine collapse. Borrell, he'll be the managing director of Tony Blair's warmonger think tank. His office will be across from Santa Marin, Dancing Queen, right? So yeah, that's what Borrell is saying in this statement. That's it. And of course, you're going to get a lot of articles in February, in March, a lot of articles calling for money and weapons to Ukraine, because Ukraine only has, if they don't get money, if they don't get the big weapons package that they're looking for, then Ukraine only has a couple of months left. That's obvious. So you're going to get a lot of articles, a lot of statements from collective West officials sounding the alarm. We have to get money and weapons to Project Ukraine. So February and March, you're going to see a whole lot of statements like this one from Borrell. Macron, the other day when he was in Sweden, he said that the EU must support Ukraine even if the US withdraws aid. This is a decisive and testing moment for Europe, Macron said. We must be ready to act to defend and support Ukraine, whatever it takes and whatever America decides. Money for farmers? Not so much. Who cares about the farmers in France? But money for the Elensky regime? That's super important, according to Macron. But this is the line. Whatever it takes, however long it takes, whatever we feel like, whatever we can do. You're going to get a lot of this over the next couple of months. But that's Macron. He's all in when it comes to this war against Russia. Yeah, one day he'll say that it's important for France to speak with Russia. He'll say that one day, but then the next day he'll come back and talk about how Russia must be defeated and Putin must be defeated, and he's going to send 40 Scout missiles to Ukraine, and France is all in. France is one of the more belligerent countries towards Russia in this proxy war. So that's Macron. Even if the US doesn't give money, the EU has to give money. The EU has to keep Ukraine afloat. It's not about winning anymore. They've stopped talking about winning. You notice that? They've all stopped talking about winning and regime change in Moscow once Putin is defeated and marching into Moscow, and the Russian military is going to get crushed by Ukraine, and we're going to defeat the Putin. You hear none of that stuff anymore. Now it's just all about keeping Ukraine afloat. We got to get money and weapons just to keep it running. Keep the grift, keep the operation, keep the washing machine spinning, keep the weapons manufacturers happy, keep that stock price up, and let's not have a collapse while I'm in office. So they are getting weapons to Ukraine. They are getting some weapons to Ukraine, and the way they're doing this is with this type of circular arms dealing, right? What's happening is that well, let me give you an example. What's happening in Greece? Let me give you an example of what's going on here. And Lavrov actually talked about this during a meeting that he had the other day, as well, during a roundtable discussion that he had the other day. What's going on is that in the example of Greece, and the Kiev Independent reported on this, the U.S. is giving weapons to Greece at a very low cost or even for free. So they're giving weapons to Greece, and with these weapons, Biden includes a note. I'm not joking. He includes like a note, and he's telling Mitsotakis, the prime minister, he's saying, "Look, here are these weapons from the United States to Greece because we're good pals, and if Greece, finds it in their interests or in their benefit to maybe send some of their older weapons to Ukraine, then that would be great." They're not ordering Greece to send weapons to Ukraine. They're not telling the Greeks that if they don't send weapons to Ukraine, then they're not going to get these U.S. weapons for free. They're just saying, here's a free gift of weapons from us to you. And if you find it in your heart to maybe hand over some of your older stuff to Ukraine, or stuff that you don't use that much to Ukraine, that would be cool. We would look favorably upon that type of gesture. That's what the Kiev Independent is reporting. Media: Biden arms Ukraine via Greece. That's the title from the Kiev Independent. A U.S. legal authority known as Excess Defense Articles, EDA, allows the president to deem certain weapons systems surplus and transfer them to partner nations at a cheap price or without cost. So that's how they're getting a trickle of weapons to Project Ukraine, is they're using these types of schemes. So Lavrov hinted at this, by the way. He said that Russia is fully aware of all of these schemes of getting weapons to Ukraine. He even said that according to the Russian authorities, the United States, they're actually going to countries and trying to get them to hand over the weapons that Russia had sold to these countries in legitimate deals. And Lavrov said that this is illegal. Like, I don't know, let's say, let me give an example, like S-300, say S-300 sold to Turkey. And that was a legitimate transaction. And Lavrov is like, look, when we make these deals, there's a clause which says that Turkey can't sell these weapons to another party unless we approve it. And this is pretty much standard practice when one state is selling weapons to another state. And Lavrov is like, look, Russia is aware of activity from the United States where they're running around trying to get countries like Turkey. This is just an example. I don't know if they've told Turkey to do this or not, but the example, let's just say Turkey, the United States going to Turkey and telling Turkey, look, give over your S-300s to Ukraine that you bought from Russia, and we'll give you Patriots or something else. And Lavrov's like, no, that can't happen. That breaks our contract. That goes against, I don't know if it goes against international law or regulation. I'm sure it does. But yeah, he's like, we know that they're trying to do this. And so he made that statement yesterday. An interesting statement from Lavrov. By the way, Newland actually warned Turkey the other day. She's like, call off your S-300 deal with Russia, get rid of those S-300s, and if you do that, then we'll give you F-35s. We'll put you on the F-35 program, she said. But you have to get rid of your military cooperation with Russia. And the I think it's S-300s or S-400s, I forgot which system Turkey bought. But yeah, that was Newland's warning to Turkey. So the Financial Times, they put out an article yesterday with the title, Russian Banks Post Record Profits Despite Western Sanctions. So Russian banks' profit rose 16x in 2023 to 3.3 trillion rubles. What happens when you leave the Western financial system and are able to function optimally? Says this post from the Sirius Report. So the Financial Times admitting that Russian banks record profits during a time when they have 50,000 sanctions against them, 100,000 sanctions against them. They post record profits. Anyway, don't worry about this collective West. No problem. CNN reported yesterday that Russia's economic situation is very bleak. But in the long term, in 50 years or 100 years, the sanctions are going to start to really work in 100 years. That's according to CNN and various research and reports that have come out. So, the profits may be really high right now for the Russian banks, but in 50 years, you're going to really see the effects of the Western sanctions on the Russian banks. Just give it some time. Give it some time. Be patient. Oh, man. De-dollarization. The central bank of new BRICS member UAE has put in place a platform to pay China in digital dirham, bypassing the dollar, with the first transaction occurring yesterday. And the post from the Twitter X account BRICS says UAE pays China with new digital dirham, ditches US dollar. And the central bank chief, Nabulina of Russia, she said that more countries are doubting SWIFT. The dollar-based international financial system is becoming risky, the head of Russia's central bank says. She discussed the growing concerns among businesses and nations interested in the development of economic trade and investment relations about how the existing dollar-based institutions work. Risks of using the established international payment infrastructure have emerged, and many countries are thinking about alternatives, such as their own options for cross-border payment mechanisms, Nabulina said. Is there any part of the system, the unipolar system that Biden has touched that hasn't just completely imploded on the rocks that is Project Ukraine? Anything that hasn't completely been destroyed because of Project Ukraine in the unipolar system? Unbelievable stuff. De-dollarization, doubts about SWIFT. Yep. Record bank profits not because they're in the financial system of the West, but record bank profits because they're out of the financial system of the West. This was 100% predictable. Everyone saw this coming with the sanctions and the cutting off of SWIFT, and now going after all the talk about going after the Russian frozen assets, and all of these things that the collective West did in order to get regime change in Russia, and in order to fight this proxy war with Russia in Ukraine. All of this has led to the disintegration of the collective West financial architecture, and it's just disintegrating right before our eyes. But Taylor Swift is making a lot of news, so no need to worry about the U.S. dollar or Swift or anything like that. Anyway, France's government is announcing some new measures to try and calm the farmers as they are encircling Paris as they're blockading Paris. The new prime minister, what's his name? Gabriel Attal, I believe is his name. He announced some new measures to try and calm down the anger of the farmers, which is very typical of the Macron administration. They always do these little they always engage in these little schemes, these practices where when they have a protest, they'll try to give a little something to the protesters. Then the protesters kind of go away. They hope that they go away, and then they completely revert or retract whatever they have given over time. This is what Macron does all the time. It's what his administration does all the time. And that's what the new prime minister is doing as well. ABC News is reporting that France's newly appointed prime minister has announced controls on foreign food products in order to guarantee fair competition, seeking to calm the anger of protesting farmers camped out around Paris. You also have farmer protests, which are going to be going on in Belgium, I believe. Where else? Italy, Germany, Spain, just all over the European Union, all over. So yeah, and it's not really being reported much. You know, you really have to search for the farmer protests in the EU. You have to really search for it to get a feel or an understanding as to what is going on. No doubt there has been some sort of media blackout or embargo, so that this story is not reported on. But every now and then you get an article like this one from ABC News, which talks about the situation in Paris. And from what I understand, they have blocked one major road, and the farmers are moving towards blocking more of the major roads heading into Paris. I actually saw videos of one of the roads, and there was an automobile or a truck that was on fire in one of these roads. So, you know, if they manage to successfully blockade Paris, then they'll be able to really extract a lot more from the Macron administration, and they have to make it stick though. Don't let Macron back out of any deals, which is what he does over time. It's one of the techniques that he always uses, to give a little, and then as the months and years go along, whatever concessions Macron made, they all just kind of vanish. The EU does this, actually. There's a common tactic of the EU. So the farmers, if they really want sustainable change, then a long-term change, then they have to make sure that their voices are heard. So that is the article from ABC News on the farmer protests. By the way, Biden has said that he has decided how to respond to the attacks on Jordan, to the drone attack on Jordan, allegedly on Jordan. He's picked his spots. He's picked his method of retaliation. No one really knows what that is, but according to various reports, the Biden White House is going to respond in a way that will avoid a wider escalation, a wider war in the Middle East. And the reports are saying that this retaliation will happen in the next day or two, maybe even this evening. It could happen, but those are the reports that we're getting from the collective West media. So let's do a clown world, and we will wrap this video up. And sticking with Biden, we had a report from CNN, which claims that Xi promised Biden China wouldn't interfere in the 2024 election. If you believe that. If you believe this story from CNN, then during the meeting that Biden had with Xi in San Francisco, Biden actually confronted Xi about China's meddling in U.S. elections, and he told Xi Jinping, "Don't you do it in 2024. Don't do it." That is what Biden told Xi Jinping, and Xi, afraid of Biden, he backed down and said, "Don't worry, Mr. Biden, I will not meddle in the elections." That is according to CNN, if you believe that. If you believe that nonsense. That's the same event where Biden called Z a dictator and Blinken was like, that's what I'm talking about. That's when all of this allegedly went down, according to CNN. Anyway, let's see here. During his ARD interview with the German media company ARD, Elensky, he said that Germany should stop giving money to Ukraine refugees in Germany. Instead, they should deposit that money into Ukraine's bank account. That's what Elensky said. Stop taking care of our citizens that seek refuge in your country, Germany, and just give the money to me. Give the money to me. That's what Elensky said. From what I understand, there's like a mobilization bill in the parliament in Ukraine, which is actually now saying that the refugees, they in Europe, they will not get any type of embassy or consular services or any kind of bank services or anything like that while they're in Europe. So they have to come home to Ukraine so that they can then be sent to the front lines. So the Zelensky regime, they're looking to put a squeeze on all of the refugees in Europe. And they're telling Germany to stop giving them money. They want them to come back to Ukraine so they can then send them off to fight. Even though during the same interview with ARD, Zelensky said that his army is 880,000 strong. Anyway, go figure. All right, that is the video, everybody. The Duran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and Twitter X. And go to the Duran shop, 15% off all t-shirts. Take care.